That's right. I think I'm back in the spot. You can check me too if you want.
Sure. You're gonna be in this video because you keep moving around.
Perfect. All right, great.
Alright, we're back for another episode of Crosstalk. I'm Tim.
I'm Chris.
And today we're talking about pacing in film. Does pacing matter in film? I guess we're about to find out.
Exactly.
Okay, so Chris.
Yes.
Even though I stole your line.
That's right.
Does pacing matter in film?
Yes and no. I would argue that there are a lot of good films out there that maybe the pacing isn't what it should be.
Yeah.
But there's also a lot of... There are, I feel, way more good examples of films that are really good to great, and a lot of that has to do with their pacing as well as their content.
Mm-hmm.
So we can start off, we can talk about a few examples here, and
yeah.
you know, just we can start off at you.
Yeah, sure. Okay, so let's talk about one of my new favorite movies this past couple of years, Whiplash.
Yeah.
It has Miles Teller in it.
Yes.
And has J.K. Simmons.
J.K. Simmons.
I was going to say J.J. Simmons, no, that's not
Well, I know because he played the J. Jonah Jameson.
J. Jonah Jameson.
Anyway.
So anyway, it's a fantastic movie.
Yeah.
And I watched it with... I just want to tell you a little story about it.
Okay.
So I watched this movie with my mom and dad.
Oh.
And, yeah. And my mom has this... She has a really good heart. So she always wants movies to have, like, a good outcome. And if they don't have a good outcome, or there isn't, like, some sort of redeeming quality in it,
yeah.
she just isn't like, well, she doesn't accept it as a movie.
Sure.
So...
My mom has a similar thought, by the way.
So she watched this movie with me, and I was like, this is a great movie. And she's like, but he gave up all of his, like, dreams, and he did all these awful things, and he ruined relationships to achieve, like... So point is, I think it's a really good movie because it stays to its focus, which is that he wants to be the greatest drummer ever, right?
Yeah.
And, you know, Andre's not here right now. I know we had him as a guest spot at one point. But I feel like if he was here, he'd probably tell me that it doesn't have good pacing.
Yeah, I think that I would agree with that. But and at the same time too, it really focuses as a very narrow lens on him and what he gets into a car crash, but still tries to get to the playing of whatever I can't remember.
Yeah, he's going to a concert hall.
For concert hall for some sort of recital.
Willingness at the end to. Despite being in a situation where he's obviously being manipulated to come out, like, or fail or whatever, he rises above that and then earns respect. And I think that was the problem that my mom had with the movie, was that they had a mutual respect at the end of the movie despite, like, a serious, not cruel, but, like, a very
conflicted
relationship.
Sure.
So anyway, point is, it's a really good movie for that reason alone. Yeah. So that's my first example.
Yeah, I'll just sort of jump in here a little bit.
Yeah.
Also talk about quite a recent film as well, and one that I think is paced so very, very well. Mad Max Fury Road. You can almost see where Act 1, Act 2, and Act 3 of that film is.
Yeah.
Through to the point, it's. I mean, you could argue that it's nothing but a everything, you know, against the wall action film, just straightforward, driving the truck the whole time. But there are these little moments along the way where they they expand Max's character from the previous 3 films and what he's going through.
Yeah.
You know, how he's dealing with a crisis of confidence. And also, it's very. People have argued it has a lot of feminist qualities to it. I would agree with that. So it's a very strong female presence in the film. So they do,
without hitting you over the head with that.
Exactly. So it's paced so well that it's all these women are strong, and that, you know, they have like a thirst for freedom, but at the same time, they acknowledge that, you know, they were prisoners at one point and now they want to be free. So they're strong women, but at the same time, they, you know, let Max in and, you know, you can help them achieve their goal, right? And then he just walks away at the end, and that's because he wants nothing to do with the power structure, right? Despite who's running it.
Yeah, and the characterizations are well done. Like you said, that if you look at them a little too closely, they may be a little hollow. But because the movie is set up in such a way that you don't necessarily understand the backstory of what's happened,
right?
You also you're allowed to lose yourself in the moment of
and you don't have to see any of the other three to enjoy this.
Right.
It doesn't count on you knowing everything.
Sorry,
but an interesting thing about that film too is that the two main stars of it, because of the conditions and their dehydration, so they famously did not get along very well in that film. Although they fought a lot, but they got such a great. They had a lot of chemistry in the end product, and they'll tell you something too about the pacing as well. Right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was gonna make a really small point about this movie. So I don't know if you've heard this, but there's this theory out there that Mad Max, each of the movies is actually the same story told from a different vantage point. So similar to like the New Testament of like Mark, Matthew, Luke, and John.
Okay.
So I don't know which one Mad Max is supposed to represent of those four stories, but it's just an interesting thought to consider that it's a shorter film and it has all these really great symbolic elements to it, which I think lend itself really well to why the movie does what it does.
And it's got a lot of great set pieces and things like that, but like I said, it nailed the pacing.
Yeah. So that's a good example. Okay, so let's talk about another one that I really like, and it's an older movie, which I feel really bad for this director because a lot of his movies haven't done very well. Probably since this movie. I mean, there's a couple of good examples, but M. Night Shyamalan did The Sixth Sense.
Right.
And if you recall, at the time that it came out, it was huge. Everybody was... This is before we had Twitter and Instagram and all these social media things. Like, this was a hype machine.
Yeah.
Everybody wanted to watch this movie because of the twist at the end.
Yeah.
And you're sitting along, you're watching the movie, even if you've heard about it already, or you're watching it for the first time in theaters, you're pulled into this story because it's so engaging in terms of what it's about. Like, we know it's about ghosts. I'm not like, spoiler alert.
If you haven't seen it by now,
like,
really.
whatever, right? But we learn that Bruce Willis is a ghost, right? So you go through this movie, you watch it, and then you'll want to watch it again because it's so well done, it's so tight that you can actually enjoy that the second time around and not feel like you're... You know how sometimes you watch a movie for the second or third time and you're like...
It loses
its luster.
Yeah, sure.
It was so well done that you're able to watch it 2 or 3 times and not feel like you're losing.
And say what you want about Shyamalan, whether the quality of his film or whatever, but his movies are always almost... I would say always, but quite often they're tight, they're well paced, they're focused, right? Mm-hmm. Like he knows how to craft it. It's just the ones that he just kind of keeps going back to the well too often.
Another one that I think we should talk about is Casino Royale.
Yeah.
Which is a really great, not reboot, because we've established that it's there's a continuation of the story, right? I thought it was a really well done movie because it's played in a casino. Like, a large portion, like, let's just take that for a second. A large portion of this movie is actually them playing cards at a table.
Yeah.
And it's so well done that you don't even notice that you're watching 10 minutes of them playing cards.
Yeah, exactly. Because, again, it's they heighten the tension with the good pacing. Mm-hmm. Yeah, they just pace it so well in between looking to see what he has in his hand, or flipping up the next card, or things like... I mean, it's old tricks, but... I feel like they did it really well in that particular film. Yeah. And, brought Bond back, right? Because there was, there'd been a lull in quality up to that point.
Yeah, and then, like, there's the moments at the beginning of the movie where I think they were in South Africa, or... I can't remember where it was specifically.
Yeah, I mean, parkour was big at the time, so they did a lot of parkour, yeah.
So that was cool, too, right? Because it allowed them to do a running shot throughout that sequence, which I think, again, helped lend to that pacing, right?
Yeah, it just feels more coherent as you go all the way through than other Bond films.
Yeah.
Yeah,
so that's my other example of...
and for me, one... I'll go in a completely different direction. Mm-hmm. Scott Pilgrim vs. the World, I know it didn't do all that well, but it's paced so well, and Edgar Wright had the tone of the comics that it was based on nailed down.
Yeah.
And the League of Evil X's, I mean, it was just... They had a pre-Captain America, Chris Evans, and they
Brandon
had...
Routh.
Yeah, exactly. And they had some, what's his name? Who played the Punisher, and he was in The Mist, and
Thomas Jane.
Yeah, Thomas Jane come in as one of the agents who arrested him, and it was just it was
the vegan police.
The vegan police, exactly right. And it's just it was so well done, so tightly paced. They didn't spend too much time on any one of the evil X's.
Yep.
They got through, but at the same time, they fleshed each one of them out, so it didn't seem like they were unimportant or didn't matter to the story. The comic relief was excellent.
Yeah.
Kieran Culkin.
Are you a pirate? Pirates are in right now?
Yeah, exactly. So and Kieran Culkin, he completely killed his comic relief role in that film.
You know what's interesting about that movie? It was shot while Brian Lee O'Malley was still writing the full series.
Oh yeah.
So he had direct participation in the process.
Oh, it's even better.
So I think that says a lot to his vision and his ability to communicate it to the director, to Edgar Wright. So I think that's another reason why it's a really well done movie, because he kept in the most important elements and didn't put in as a fan of the series, I felt like it did justice to the story.
Agreed, wholeheartedly. Yeah.
Cool.
So I think we can go a little bit. I know you usually drive it, but I think we can go a little bit now on maybe films that are still really good, but maybe the pacing's not the greatest. So you can start with a few.
Okay, so another funny story.
Nice.
So I just recently watched all of the Planet of the Apes movies in anticipation of the new one coming out, War for the Planet of the Apes. I think it's coming out next year. So I sat there and watched the Legacy movies, and then I watched the really shitty Tim Burton remake.
Yeah, it was so bad.
And since watched the other reboots, which I don't know if they're reboots. I think I would also classify them as remakes, but whatever. Anyway. So I watched the original Planet of the Apes, and it is an excellent film.
It is.
However, we have come a long way in terms of cinematography in the past 40-some years.
Yes.
It is seriously a testament to the ability of directors and actors and everyone involved in these films that they've been able to improve on that idea. Because you watch that movie, and they spend a lot of time in the desert before they even get to the point where they're wrangled by the apes.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of unnecessary dialogue, and even when they're in the cells, there's just lots of little moments where I struggled watching the movie, knowing that it's a good movie and an interesting movie, and
it has something interesting to say.
But I'm sitting there and I'm going come on, let's pick it up.
That's good. I'll kind of jump in here too. Also an older, also considered a huge classic. I may get some flack for this, but Jaws. I honestly think it's not paced very well.
Same reasons, right?
Exact same reasons. Yeah. And the thing about it, I find it uneven. If you consider at the beginning of the movie, and you have some people dying, it takes them forever to even realize that there's a shark there, for starters. And then once they get, then it takes them a while to close the beach, and then it takes them a while to figure out they want to hunt the shark, and then it takes them a while, and then they focus almost the whole. And I mean, it's a really good character film in the last 1/3 or so, but even on the boat, they spend a lot of time, and I know.
Yeah, when they're getting drunk and
they're getting drunk and they're singing, and he was telling stories. The story about I feel like there's a little bit of that maybe could have done away with, made a little bit leaner to get to his Indianapolis story, because it was very relevant to what, and put you in his mind as to why he's obsessed with catching the shark.
Yeah. Because
of his experience on that when the USS Indianapolis went
down. Yeah, it makes sense, right?
So it was a really good, that part, but there was a lot on that where it's do we need them out on the boat for 3 days shooting barrels again and again and again and again?
There's no logic there.
Yeah. So and I know a lot of that has to do with the shark failing. So they had to fill a bunch of the movie, right, with some things like that. So yeah, I feel like it suffers from a pacing point of view, but like absolute classic, and I love it. But it's one of those ones as a result of pacing. I think that sometimes I have to be in a mood to watch.
Yeah. Or if you're watching it, you're gonna go away at the points that drag out, right?
Yeah.
You won't watch, like you said, the part where they're shooting at the barrels. You're probably not going to sit there, and you'll probably be on your phone or
something like
grabbing
that.
them.
Could be a testament to or shorter attention span.
Who knows?
Maybe, I don't know.
Okay. So that's an excellent example. Mm-hmm. I have one that's even worse than Planet of the Apes that I want to talk about.
Okay.
And it got me really riled up when I thought about it. And
yeah.
I know, like, we were talking about this beforehand, and I couldn't think of any examples, but then once I did, it was like, holy shit, this is a perfect example. Okay. So I'm just going to say it. Kill Bill. Mm-hmm. And you can choose which one you want. Like, whether it's Volume 1 or Volume 2, I think both are victims of bad pacing.
I would argue that Volume 2 is the far worst offender, but yes.
But they're both bad for it.
Yes.
And
Tarantino's films in general are not very
They're not very good for that.
For pacing.
For pacing specifically.
We should be specific for pacing.
For pacing. They're not very good for pacing.
Yes.
So the challenge with Kill Bill is that he built this movie and then decided, for whatever reason, that it needed to be taken into 2 volumes because it was really long. Which makes sense. But why does it still feel like I'm watching a 3-hour movie in both movies?
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, there's a lot of superfluous
points.
In those cases, pacing might not matter as much because the work overshadows it.
Yeah,
the quality overshadows it.
We've talked about that before, right? Like, there's movies that are worthy of your attention, but may not be considered a rewatchable movie. They would be considered a very well-made quality movie that you can engage with, but you have to have the right attitude.
Yeah. So, I'll get into one. I've talked about it quite often because I'm a horror buff. Brother the Wolf.
Right.
And I've said it before. Don't watch it when you're tired. You possibly could fall asleep. That's because it's boring. But how it's relevant to this is because it's a poorly paced film. It's very, very uneven. They start out slow. They build to something. One of the main characters dies. They sort of figure out that they figure out that there's something going on. They almost could have ended the movie there and kind of left it open, but it almost feels like they tacked on an extra 45 minutes.
Yeah.
And you get slow again, and he mourns his death, and a bunch of other stuff happens, and then you figure out the big mystery of who's behind everything.
Yeah.
I feel like there's a lot of that film that could be cut.
You could have shortened it substantially.
Yeah, and it could be still a tighter film. And I feel like, too, it might have, maybe not necessarily affected the quality more, but I almost guarantee you if they had tightened up that film that it would have done a lot better box office-wise.
Yeah. Yeah, so, and that's a good point, too, right, is if you don't make those considerations at the beginning of the movie, like when you're shooting it or whatever. Like, I mean, it goes down to editing, right? Sometimes the editing process screws up and the director's original vision is right.
Yeah.
But it's important for the editor to understand what the director wants to do, and vice versa. Like, the director needs to make it clear how the movie should.
There also should be the consideration of how you want to engage your audience too, right?
Yeah.
And what's your goal with the film?
What's the driving point? Of the film?
Yeah. So it's like anything else in life. So I think that overall, pacing it is important. It can make a good film great, but at the same time, it's not always the be all end all. I'll equate it to photography, the rule of thirds. Rules are made to be broken. Like, typically it's how you're supposed to structure your photo, but some of the most amazing, beautiful photos breaks almost every rule of photography that you could ever think of.
Yeah. You have to understand the rules, you don't necessarily have to follow them.
Exactly. And sometimes you can get it's merited artistically, and you can get a much more artistic product out of it if you sometimes ignore the rules of pacing.
Absolutely. So with that said, I feel like this was a really tight episode.
Yeah, absolutely. But I think we covered a lot, though.
Yeah. So what do you think? Should we wrap it up?
I think so.
Okay. Awesome.
So, have you agreed with our points? Are you going to rake me over the coals for Jaws? Maybe some of Tim's choices as well. Or maybe you feel like there's some examples that you want to comment. Feel free to like and share the video, comment below. Even better, subscribe to the channel.
Until next time, I'm Tim.
And I'm Chris.
And this is Crosstalk.